one. Welcome into the Scoop, the #1 UNC football recruiting podcast in the world, part of the Inside Carolina Podcast Network. This podcast is brought to you by our good friends over at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, the best and most local place for all your UNC apparel and gear needs. I'm your host, Ross Martin, and as always, on the Scoop, I'm joined by Donnie Scoops Callahan, and today we have a very special guest. Joining us again is Brian Dohn of 24/7 Sports. What's up, guys?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
I am awesome, and what the listeners don't realize is that we had a pretty funny encounter where, and Ross doesn't even know, it was funny because on the screen, you were just like paused, but it wasn't no blur whatsoever, so it looked like there was like a cardboard cutout that we were talking to. And it looked like at any moment you could talk. So, Ross had some internet problems that hopefully we have. It seems like we've kind of fixed those things.
Yeah, my big issue with it, Ross, is not only did I have to get up early to tape this, I got to look at Don with a gritty picture in the background wearing that Flyers shirt, and it just made me feel ill. And now I'm just imagining that Don is gritty, and that's what he does when he's off. He just walks around in that mascot outfit.
For those who
it's the best mascot in all of sports, and it's only been around for a couple of years.
It's the best mascot you have on your wall.
All right. Before people log off because of this conversation, for those listening on audio, you can also catch us on YouTube. We're recording on Zoom now, so you get us on YouTube, on audio, wherever you get your podcast. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the Inside Carolina podcast. Give us a 5-star rating, a quick review about what you liked about this podcast or any of Inside Carolina's podcasts, and then subscribe to the podcast. Every time a new one drops, automatically shows up in your feed. All right, let's get right into it, guys. We brought on Brian Dohn, who covers the Mid-Atlantic and some of the Northeast for 24/7 Sports, and national recruiting analyst, because there's a lot of things in his area we need to get into. Last week we took off. We had the Tony Grimes commitment for UNC. We took a week off, and now we're back to talk about Tony Grimes reclassifying. So that'll be at the top of the show. We're going to get into what happened with George Wilson, the 4-star defensive end from the Virginia Beach area who committed to South Carolina on Sunday. And then we're going to get into Logan Taylor, who's making a commitment decision this Friday. All those guys were UNC targets. Obviously, Grimes has committed to the Tar Heels. The other two, obviously, Wilson's committed to the Gamecocks, and Logan Taylor is going to make a decision which we believe will not be UNC, but we'll get into all that. Sound good, guys?
Perfect for me.
I'm excited.
Don, and we're also going to close with a little talk on Don's new passion for the sport of soccer, and that's another reason why Brian is on. Brian apparently got Don in on the sport during this time of quarantine, and then we're going to talk a little. We're going to talk a little about our Don and myself's vacations we took last week. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, we took vacations the same week, but we went to separate.
All right. So everything good there. Let's get right into it with Tony Grimes. This news broke while I was gone, but we had always kind of heard some rumors of Tony Grimes reclassifying. Where do we start? Brian, you want to start with us about Tony Grimes reclassifying to the class of 2020 and apparently going to arrive on campus in August sometime, begin classes if they exist, and take part in the 2020 season for UNC if that exists?
Yeah, I think it's something, like you said, it's been going on for a while. I remember speaking with his dad last fall about, how far advanced Tony was with his academics. And, as this pandemic started and visits got shut down, his dad kind of wanted to keep it quiet, but would let us know, myself and Steve Wilfong with 24/7 Sports, hey, this is a possibility. He only needs one class as a summer class that he can take online, and that's what he's going to do. And it makes sense because, I don't know anybody in the country who just steadfastly believes there's going to be a full high school season. I know up here in Jersey, it's going to be at best a 5-week regular season already, they're saying. And so without that possibility, he's already a kid that was going to enroll in December if he stayed in high school. So even if your college season is shortened or your college season is moved to the spring or whatever happens there, he now can start working toward that degree. And when you're a 5-star kid, you're not thinking I'm going to be there for 5 years. The mentality is usually 3 and out or 4 and out. 3 and out, enrolling now allows him to work toward his degree. And if he's in there for 4 years, Tony's a really smart kid, really does a good job academically, obviously. You're there 4 years, you get your master's degree, and he's already 18. He's physically ready to play. It makes a lot of sense. And if you're North Carolina, if you have spots, if you don't have spots, when Tony Grimes says, hey, I want to come in early, it's not like you're going to sit there and go, well, it kind of upsets our balance of scholarships, and we don't know if we have room. So, I mean, it makes sense on every level.
Yeah, from my perspective, obviously the academic stuff makes sense. You know, it's a different world with coronavirus. Like, there's so many questions. And does he want to hang around high school and Virginia Beach for another fall and maybe not have a season? Or does he want to get to UNC, strength conditioning, nutrition, start working with the coaches, start getting better, going against better competition? And it's a no-brainer from his side. And obviously, if they have a season, does he play? Does he redshirt? Does he play the 4 games? Those are all the questions that we don't know yet. But obviously, this guy is very, very good. 5-star talent, number 7 overall in 24/7 Sports Composite, 6 foot, 180 pounds, committed to UNC 2 weeks ago, and definitely one of the best recruits UNC has ever had.
Yeah, and Ross, if you look at it real quick, sorry to cut you off, but the decision to go in is based on, Tony Grimes' dad, Deion Glover, he's an assistant coach at Princess Anne, and he's really tied in to the state athletic situation, with high school sports. And so he's not making this move if you think there's going to be a season in Virginia or a full season in Virginia. And I think that's one thing you really have to look at, is his dad is really tied in. It also suggests what the season could look like high school wise in Virginia.
Yeah, there's so many questions. This is the first time Don hasn't really gotten much words in here at the top of the show. The star of the show, Don Scoops Callahan, getting his shine taken away by the Dohn master. Don, your thoughts, and if add on to what we said, but what are you hearing about? Is this definitely happening, or what has to happen to make sure it does occur for Grimes to enroll early at UNC?
Well, I mean, obviously he has to take the class, and I think the major potential holdup, as always, is UNC admissions, and I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen a lot of different just strange sort of hiccups that happen. Not saying that there's going to be in this situation, but there have been in the past, and the problem with that, for a kid who may be coming out, let's say in May and enrolling in August, you have all those months to kind of figure things out and work through them, so it's not that big of a deal. Tony's working within a very small window to where he has to get the class done and everything else in a short amount of time. So hopefully, for the UNC fans' sake, cross your fingers to make sure that there aren't any sort of hiccups between now and whenever classes start in August.
Yeah, and that adds another element. Like, if he doesn't enroll early, then it opens up, who knows who else could come in and try to sway him.
That's the benefit from North Carolina's stance.
Yeah, get him in.
Yeah, because, I mean, even when he committed, there was always like all these rumors, not coming from Tony or his dad, but other people saying, oh, well, he's still going to take an official to Georgia, and he's still going to take an official to Ohio State and all that. Him enrolling obviously just completely wipes that out. And any sort of concerns, because regardless of what happened with UNC season and all that, it's always going to be a worry in the back of your mind of this 5-star that we got to hold on to, and now it takes away that worry.
Yeah, and I'll just say, this is where I look at it, and you say the hiccups and everything. Mac Brown didn't come to North Carolina again to have a hiccup in getting a 5-star kid into his program.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But UNC admissions is,
Hey, I covered UCLA. I understand about admissions issues. Mm-hmm. I don't even think they would screw it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple changes that Mac Brown has deployed in a lot of aspects of the program to just make it more of a big-time football program. And that's a whole other podcast of things he's done and added in terms of recruiting. But maybe getting in a couple guys, but this doesn't have to involve Grimes, because we know he is sharp when it comes to academics. To add on to what I said earlier, he comes in, all right, he's from high school, he hasn't played senior season. What do you expect kind of happens when he gets to UNC? Is this just a chance to get stronger, faster, better, play 4 games? If let's say they have a season, play 4 games in redshirt, or is it a situation where he is playing, this is going to be his freshman year, 2 more years, he's gone? How do you kind of see that breaking down? Let's go Don, and we'll go Brian.
Yeah, so from his actual physical preparedness and all that, I mean, Grimes is probably the most prepared kid coming out of high school from the cornerback position that I have personally ever seen. And then you look at what Mac Brown, how he handled the freshman last year, and he wasn't afraid to burn red shirts. So I fully anticipate at the very least Tony Grimes is going to play a whole lot of football this season if we have a football season.
Yeah, I agree with Don, and I think he's a kid that can come in and play some nickel to really get used to it. He's a smart kid. He'll understand the schemes. You know, I know, Ross, before you mentioned nutrition and weight training. Look, if you've met Tony,
Yeah.
you know he's already into that stuff.
Yeah.
So that'll only enhance it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got minimal body fat. I mean, he's jacked up for a corner. He's loose. His drills are outstanding. He puts in a ton of work. His dad works with him a lot, just in terms of footwork drills and everything. To me, as long as Grimes can understand the system, what his responsibilities and assignments are, he'll get on the field. And, you can't make the determination of whether he's going to redshirt, play 4 games or not until you know, A, where he fits in the rotation, B, do they have injuries, and C, does he understand everything? And then, he's, like I said before, he's a 5-star kid. These kids aren't expected to hang for 5 years. And so if you play him for 5 games, if you had a full season, you burn his red shirt, well, who cares? Because he's supposed to be gone in another 2 or 3 years anyway.
Yep. Don, would you say you have minimal body fat?
I would say I have maximum body fat.
There you go.
Hey, Ross, you know better than the 3 of us UNC's secondary as far as like what they have already. I know that there was a lot of transfers last offseason that are now going to be eligible to play. What's kind of the openings looking like in the secondary?
Look at Don doing a little hosting, a little segue, a little setting me up there.
I got to do a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? I got to Ross, who's freezing every 5 minutes.
Yeah. Pray for the internet. Hopefully it keeps working. All right, so you got Patrice Renee, who's come back from an injury. Obviously, I think, Brian, you probably know him from Episcopal High School.
Yep.
Patrice Renee is the senior, 5th-year senior. And then behind him, or not behind him, but alongside him, Trey Morris and the Storm Duck are probably you're looking at your starters on day 1 of training camp. And then Kyler McMichael, the Clemson transfer, is eligible this season after sitting out last year. And Bryce Watts from Virginia Tech. 2 ACC transfers are both eligible. Who knows? There's a reason they transferred. You always say that, but we've heard good things about both. McMichael was a top 100 player, I think, and Watts apparently is super fast. So those are the 5 players you're looking at: Storm Duck, Patrice Renee, Trey Morrison, Bryce Watts, and Kyler McMichael. And then you have a couple like Obi Agbuna and some other people like that. I think that is it. And so you add in Tony Grimes, and that's a very deep, a very long, and a very experienced secondary, or a very experienced group of corners. Those are all corners. Let me make that clear. Deandre Hollands is another name who played some last year as well. So last year they had tons of issues with depth. They had tons of injuries and had a lot of issues bringing in freshmen who played early and moving people around to different positions. Seems like with this year with Grimes in, there's not going to be any depth questions for the quarterbacks.
Good answer, Ross.
There you go. Okay, so my only thought here is, and it kind of goes along with whether or not UNC has a season, is like, all right, so it comes in, they don't play in 2020, and it's kind of any good player. It's like you miss a season of having a really good player. Like Sam Howell, if we don't have a 2020 season, UNC might not only have him for 2 years on the field. It's kind of crazy to think about. That's one thought I have in my mind. But coronavirus affects everything and anything.
Well, we could do an entire podcast about all of our concerns, worries, theories, and all that.
Oh, I bet you'll get a lot of likes and shares on that one.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff,
Email
guys.
too.
Anything else on Grimes? I mean, big-time 5-star, enrolling early if everything happens with getting into UNC, and that should happen in August, I guess, when training camp starts, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a positive, I think, for everybody involved. This gets finalized.
Awesome. All right. Now I want to talk to you about Johnny T-shirt. Before we talk about Johnny T-shirt, we're going to, tease the George Wilson conversation coming up and Logan Taylor, two, targets for UNC that didn't go the Tar Heels way. A little, hiccup in the Mac train that's rolling down the highway. George Wilson, Logan Taylor talk coming up soon with Brian and Don. But first, I want to talk to you about Johnny T-shirt and johnnytshirt.com, your place for all your UNC apparel needs and all your gears. I felt my live read was getting a little stale, so I headed over to johnnytshirt.com to get some more ideas to help, inform you of what's going on over there at that local company on Franklin Street and online. Right now, they're having a holiday sale. Holiday sale? Ross, what's that mean? All holiday merchandise is 25 to 50% off through the month of July. So that's all your Christmas gear, all your stuff for the different holidays. Get that now at Johnny T-shirt. They have Return of the Mac T-shirts. They have Carolina Blue masks for this COVID-19 situation we're dealing with. You can get 2 masks for $9.99. You can pick up the Football in the Forest book by Lee Pace from Johnny T-shirt. So if you're going to get that book, order it from johnnytshirt.com. Football in the Forest, Lee Pace's book about Keene Stadium and UNC football. They have tons of stuff: apparel, vintage T-shirts, koozies, tailgate essentials, UNC wine glasses, UNC flags, coolers, bags, ties, watches, golf balls, anything you want. Tons of jerseys for all the sports: baseball, football, basketball, T-shirts, crew neck sweatshirts, half zips, everything you need for UNC. Massive website. Head over to Giant T-shirt and gianttshirt.com. Support local businesses during this strange time when a lot of the local companies are struggling economically. All right, guys, back to the podcast. How was that live read?
That was very good. Listen, I'm going on vacation soon. I'll be heading down in that area. I may stop by and get some gear, to be honest. Sounded good.
Yeah, tons of great stuff. Get you a little couple koozies if you're going to drink some cold ones on the beach down here in North Carolina. Where are you heading, Brian?
We're getting into the lower portion of South Carolina.
There you go. Everyone's like real sketchy when telling themselves where they're going, because that's where the flare-ups are with coronavirus. Yeah, we're kind of going to.
We're going to a very secluded place. So
you going to Kiowa?
I'm not concerned. We go closer to Pawleys Island. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, we won't give.
Hey, I think for your live read, when you ask yourself a question, you need to change your voice, maybe like a feminine voice. What do you think?
I'm not sure about that.
When you said mask, Ross, I thought of Don wearing like a Batman mask, and I thought that would be good for the next podcast, just like a whole mask like that.
The whole podcast wearing a Batman mask?
But it has to be Carolina Blue.
Okay.
There you go. All right, we are going to dive into George Wilson here. 4-star, top 350 defense or player in the 2021 class. Last podcast, we got some hints that Brian was going to switch his crystal ball to UNC. He did. I think some other people did too. So this was kind of a situation that happens occasionally where everyone thinks he's going one way, and Wilson ended up committing to South Carolina. Sorry to call you out there, Brian. But let's go right to you, Brian. What happened with George Wilson? All the signs point to Carolina, and then he goes to South Carolina, and that's where he's committed right now.
Yeah, what happened was when I put the crystal ball pick in, all the intel we got from people very, very close to him was he was heading to North Carolina. And at the day I put it in, if he was going to announce, it was going to be for North Carolina. There's no doubt about that. So what happened? South Carolina really started hitting heavy on, hey, look, we've been on you for a long time. You know this, that you've known these guys for a while, especially assistant coaches recruiting him for South Carolina. You've known them since the fall. We offered you in November. We were one of your first offers, one of your first Power Fives, and they really started going that route. Then they got, to the family and said, hey, this is what's been going on. We've been with you for this long. This is how we'll use you. We don't have anybody really in the program like you. We'll use you as a hybrid kind of outside linebacker, D-end. And they just, they did a great job of reminding George Wilson why he liked South Carolina so much in the process. And I checked in with one of his coaches before I flipped my pick over to South Carolina, and I said, I'm hearing South Carolina a lot. And his response was, remember what I told you back in the spring when everybody was thinking Penn State and North Carolina. Don't sleep on South Carolina. And it was because of the relationship that the staff had built with George's family. Now, the flip side is, and I think you can do this with a lot of prospects, George has not been to South Carolina. And I think some kids, meaning a lot.
He has not visited?
No, he told me he has not been to campus there. And so, which, I mean, it happens a lot now, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are your options? You get squeezed. These kids, I mean, you're George Wilson. You have 4 schools as finalists, which means 10 coaches a day are texting you 3 or 4 times a day. You're getting hundreds of texts a day. It's too much. These coaches have nothing to do but recruit. And for these kids, it's getting to be too much. You end the process, you commit, and I think, 95% will stick to where they're committed to, but you always have the outliers who will go somewhere else. And if visits do open up in the fall, I mean, him and along with probably 6 zillion others will wind up. I could see them making visits. I'm not saying he will, and if South Carolina folks that are going to get wind of this and jump on may get nervous and all that stuff, but I mean, that's just the life right now. If visits open up, and you're talking about kids who didn't make visits and who didn't get to campuses, I could see that happening. I don't, that's why when Don mentioned Tony Grimes enrolling is so important. He couldn't make visits either. So all these kids that want to go through the process, I mean, look, if I tell you right now you can go on a trip, it's paid for 48 hours. They tell you how great you are and you do anything you want food wise and everything. You'd be like, okay, sign me up. Yeah. So I think if it does loosen up, I'm going to see a lot of kids making visits.
The lesson here, Don, is don't sleep on the Cox.
Is that a lesson you learned a long time ago?
I think that's one that maybe you need to put into your brain hole. Don, your take here, you had the boards thinking it was all UNC, and then all of a sudden, Flip City.
Yeah. So
breaking the hearts of Tar Heel fans everywhere, Don.
I know. The fan shock, and it wasn't just because of what Brian reported, what I reported. What was pretty surprising. I think that if something like this happened even last year, but definitely a few years ago, it wouldn't have been such a huge shock. And you're just kind of looking at not just this situation, but kind of looping it together with the Logan Taylor stuff. And then even going back to Zaire Patterson, it's a little bit of, and UNC fans aren't going to like me for saying this, but kind of falling back down to earth for a little bit because, and I kind of fell for it too. The, Tar Heels, Mac Brown were having a really good spring and they were landing a lot of really good players, a lot of forks. I mean, the class is still ranked in the top 5 right now. So the class was having a whole lot of success. And I think the shock is kind of in relation to just how well North Carolina is doing. Now, as far as, the what and the why, I mean, I'm in the same ballpark as Brian with, our sources telling us one thing. The thing that I go back to is that George himself has never, at least from what I know, has never said UNC or whoever is my leader. It was always all the people around him and people making assumptions. Okay, well, Tony Grimes is going there and he's from the same town and Dre Bly's recruiting him now and he's a Tidewater legend. But I do think that you kind of have to tip your hat a little bit to South Carolina. They did, the main job of a recruiter, because every school, no matter what school that you are working for, you have negatives and you obviously have positives too. And the key for a recruiter is to accentuate the positives and to weaken or lessen the negatives, at least in the mind of the recruit. And that's what South Carolina was able to do. They were able to say, okay, find out that obviously, depth chart was important. And they really piled it on North Carolina, and they kind of, exaggerated certain things about North Carolina's depth chart and really kind of made the South Carolina depth chart look more appealing. And that was key. And I think having such a strong relationship with George, because they recruited him so long, as Brian alluded to, really allowed them to really kind of to tee off on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of this in your weekly scoop, and you went through some of it there. But, Desmond Evans coming in, there's a lot of people in his position, I guess, ahead of him. So they keyed in on that and selling playing time for a team that maybe has more openings at the defensive and outside linebacker. But you're also going to a 4-8 team.
Yeah,
Coach on the hot seat too. So a lot could happen between now and signing day.
But,
George
I mean,
Wilson.
when you talk about 4 and 8 and all the weaknesses and that stuff, and I always listen to it's what Don said. Your job as a recruiter is to accentuate the positive, and 4 and 8 is one. I mean, there's a reason why Boise State does well and why TCU can make runs and everything. If you have a good recruiter, the player and the parents believe in that recruiter, and it overshadows everything. If you're 4 and 8, you're saying, hey, we need guys like you, and then we're going to compete for the SEC title. And how persuasive are you? How well they can sell that, and how well they can develop you. Those are the things that matter.
There you have it. George Wilson commits to South Carolina. Got to think this recruitment's not over. He hasn't visited South Carolina. There's a lot of time left. Is he an early enrollee option, Brian?
They're exploring it.
Yeah. Don's done a lot of exploration in his life as well. Okay, let's get right into Logan Taylor. Kind of a weird recruitment. Big time, 6'8", offensive tackle. Hasn't played a lot of football. Goes to Episcopal High School up there in Northern Virginia. He's from Canada. I don't think he's visited many places. He's announcing Friday. UNC's really wanted him all along. We've talked about him a lot on the podcast. And so what's going on now? We'll go with Brian. Brian's kind of the star of this show. Don's kind of taking a back seat here.
He's Batman. I'm Robin.
You're still wearing the mask.
You're the ping. Don, you're the penguin.
Logan Taylor's interesting. When you say hasn't visited a lot of places, I mean, he's visited one, Virginia, with his coach early in the season last fall. He's from Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is where he's at right now. Played one season at Episcopal. The finalists are Virginia, North Carolina, Florida. I put in my crystal ball for Virginia, full disclosure. I expect that's where he'll go on Friday. As we just talked about, there can be surprises and changes in this stuff. I don't anticipate it right now, but he's only been to Virginia. His parents haven't visited anywhere. They were supposed to go all spring and check out a bunch of schools because the kid has 20-plus offers. Obviously, you can't do that. He's up in Canada. There's questions on whether he can get back into the States if they have a season in Virginia, or when he can get back into the States, what they're going to do with their classes at Episcopal. There's a lot of uncertainties in this one. And just like with George Wilson, who didn't make a lot of visits and needs to see some campuses, I would anticipate Logan Taylor, once he gets back into the States, I can see him visiting some places. And look, academics are huge to him. He's at Episcopal. You don't go to Episcopal so you can take basket weaving. And so that's why you have Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida, all three really good academic schools. And then, on the fun side, this is a kid that doesn't have a lot of experience as an offensive tackle. He spent his time when he played in Halifax, which is some great tape on Huddle to watch. Not only was he a defensive end, but he was a punter. So at 6'7", 6'8", he's back there, and he had a live foot. I mean, you could see him playing rugby and stuff, or Australian rules football kind of deal. And big, strong kid, and does a lot of things. Huge room for growth. I just look at if he announces for UBA Friday, fine, and let's see where it goes from there.
What's Canadian football look like at the high school level?
Well, it's probably a lot like if myself, Don, and you grabbed like 8 of our friends and played.
In the snow.
It's tough. Snow.
Yeah, okay. The one thing I'll just add to this is it kind of feels like it was kind of a from Logan, and maybe because I know him a little bit better than what subscribers do, and Brian, you too. It feels like a little bit of a F it sort of thing. I'm just tired of this recruiting process. I'm tired of the coaches bothering me. I'm tired of all this. Because really he has hardly any information because he only made one visit. And it was a very, very brief visit. It was a game visit. And so, it just was kind of like, all right, let me just make a commitment just to get these coaches off my back and just kind of see what happens from there.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. He's at Episcopal. The coach, Mark Morris, is a great guy there. He's not going to let his kid just be like, hey, I'm picking. I mean, he's going to make sure that there's some, the pros and the cons and that it fits his personality. So there's that aspect of it. But it's like a lot of kids who haven't visited. There's uncertainty. You don't know what's going on. Hey, join our class. We're running out of room. So, there's a lot of different reasons. Or, you know what, maybe just maybe, UVA's coaching staff did an unbelievable job because he knows them well from actually going there and, can relate to them because he remembers the face-to-face discussions that they had. And, he's just comfortable there and it fits everything. Like if you would have told me, here's Logan Taylor, these are the schools he's looking at the beginning of his recruitment, I probably could have picked 2 of the 3 on the list just based on high academics and what he's looking for in a college.
Well, the other thing I think that gets ignored here is Virginia's location. Now, I get it. Location for him doesn't matter, but in this situation, he can at least look at it and be like, all right, well, that is not that far away from where I went to high school. I at least have an idea of, I know Virginia is not really in Northern Virginia, but he has a general idea of that. And he's going to have some sort of friends in that general sort of area.
Yeah,
agreed. I mean, Virginia's a great school. I mean, I wanted to go there. I mean, it's a beautiful campus. It's great education, one of the top 5 public schools, and they got a football team that's proven they can win now with Bronco Mendenhall. Great program, great guy. I mean, this is a no-brainer in terms of it's not like a crazy thing he's going there. But recruitment's not over, and we'll see what happens as the global pandemic continues, and there's question marks around everything in terms of recruiting in college football. All right, Logan Taylor. Anything else, guys? Wasn't he a crab fisherman or something like that?
Well, his
scallops.
Scallops. His coach told me that he would spend his summers hauling 80-pound bushels of scallops. To which my response was, "Hey, I could do that too. It's just when I deliver them, there'll be about 40 pounds in there."
Yeah, I mean, what a lifestyle. It's actually up. I mean, Nova Scotia's above Maine, right, or like kind of close to where Maine is.
It's really far to the right.
Okay, so it's out there in the Atlantic.
Yes. To give an idea, if you were to drive from where he lives to a school like Boston College, you kind of have to go around the water, and it's about a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, it's way up there. It's cold as shit up there in the winter. I mean, Maine. Apparently, I was up in Maine last week. Full disclosure. I mean, there's snow on the ground 6 months out of the year. It's freezing up there. It wasn't freezing this last week. All right, guys. I think that's the football talk right there. That's the American football talk. Ooh, good headway, Ross. All right, so we got Tony Grimes.
Headway or segue?
Segue, sorry. I'll edit that out. Wink, wink.
What is on your mind?
Well, we got Tony Grimes reclassifying. We got George Wilson intel and scoop on his decision, and Logan Taylor. Let's take a quick break, and we come back. We'll talk about Don and soccer and Brian's influence on Don's new passion, and then we're gonna dive into our vacation week. Insert ad break. And we're back on the scoop, presented to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Wow. Great podcast here with Don, Callahan, and Brian Dohn. All right, Don, you want to talk about this. You're getting into soccer. I guess these games are on live, the Premier League and the European leagues. I don't know much about soccer. I played it all through my youth, but I only watched the World Cup, it seems. Let's get into it, Don. What's going on?
Yeah, so prior to I guess a couple months ago, my soccer knowledge was extremely limited to my kids playing soccer, so wasn't too much. But like everybody else, I was getting sick and tired of not being able to watch any sort of live sports, live competition, and decided to give it a go. And watching a couple of different leagues. Brian, whether he likes it or not, has become my soccer mentor, my football mentor. And so, now when he calls me, he probably dreads the first couple of minutes because it's going to be a couple of questions on who he thinks is going to win a particular game or so.
Let's take a step back. So what's on TV right now? What are we watching? What's going on, Brian?
Well, first of all, anytime Don calls me, I dread the first few minutes. Okay, let's make sure we understand that. So listen, the great thing with soccer is, with MLS started, they have some 9 a.m. games on the East Coast, which is great. I love the sport. It's the only sport I've never really covered, so I haven't, it hasn't been ruined for me by covering it. But I think one of the things that's cool is it's always the stories inside of the game's a great game and it's exciting and I love it, but there's also the great stories inside of it. Like, for those that don't know, first of all, if a manager of a team criticizes its players or says something bad about the other team, it's done. Okay, you say it, that's what he said, you move on. It doesn't list, you don't have 4 days of talk about nonsense of what it could really mean. But the best part for me is not only do you play your season, and if you don't do well, you go down a level, like kind of to the minors if you're in the top.
Relegation.
Yeah, relegation. And so, which is more exciting now because, as we all know, Liverpool has won the Premier League in England. So, for the first time in 30 years, my Reds are champs there. But aside from that, there's the in-season tournaments to where you have the best teams in Europe playing each other in like a side tournament that can last the whole year. And so I equate it to, like, in baseball, if during the regular baseball season, I guess people still watch the sport, then we're going to play the best teams from Mexico, Venezuela, the Caribbean, and you have your own tournament there with, whether you're the Yankees, Dodgers, or whomever. And to me, there's so many things that go into it. It makes it so much fun. And I know people are like, well, there's got to be more goals. There's got to be more goals. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I grew up watching Giants football, so I love defense, right? But the other part is there's just to watch guys that can, kick the ball 60 yards in the air right onto like a dime onto another guy's foot on the other side of the field is unbelievable. And there's just so many aspects of it where it's just a flowing game. And so I'm trying to educate Don on all this. And look, the Inside Carolina people know Don. What a huge task that is for me to educate him.
Yeah. So Don, what's going on? What are you watching? I mean, we got to get more into the basics here. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah. So basically, as you know, I'm not a huge gambler, but I like to throw some bones. And soccer is great for me because the games are being played during the day when I'm working. So I can work and throw a game on, or throw a couple of games on in the Man Tower. I watch the Premier League. I also watch the Spanish League, La Liga.
La Liga, Don.
La Liga.
And
La
then
Liga.
Bundesliga with Germany.
And
I'll help you there.
Bundesliga, yeah.
So all these are going on right now?
Yeah.
Well, Bundesliga is over. Bundesliga ended a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and then the Italian league, which is Serie A, right?
Don, you're a big
It's actually,
right?
Don, I love that you just said that. It's actually Serie A, but
Serie A. Okay.
That's okay.
So
that just makes it better.
So what usually happens around 12 o'clock, from 12 o'clock until dinner time for me, there is like 3 games on at all times. So that's
okay.
What I watch.
That's nighttime over in Europe, I imagine, right?
Yes.
It is. It is. And so what they'll do is in England or Spain, they'll start the games about 1 p.m. here. And then usually, especially with COVID and how they're trying to catch up on the schedule, there's usually a game or two a day. And La Liga, which is Spain, will end at about 6 o'clock East Coast time. And now with MLS, you have that at 8 o'clock. So it's all day. Yeah.
So for me, it's perfect because that's when I'm doing my work. I can have it on the background, do my work, and it's done and over with. I eat dinner, and it doesn't affect, my what I'm doing with my kids or my wife or anything like that. You talked about, all right, so I don't have any issue with the lack of goals, but I do have a couple of issues with things.
Don's never had any issues with scoring.
Anyway, penalty kicks. My thing is, it's so hard to score in soccer. And then you have a penalty kick, which is like, I think I was reading, it's like something like 76% of the time it goes in. And some of the times where you're awarded a penalty kick, it's for something that, a guy accidentally trips you in the box. And, and so to me, I would, obviously no one wants to know what a dumb American thinks, but I would love for them to at least move that spot back a couple feet to give the goaltender some whatever chance. But I honestly feel, and Ross is going to laugh, that if you put me out there, and Brian's probably going to laugh too, I think I could score a good amount on a Premier League goalie just because half of it is just a guessing game.
Yeah, Don, I mean, No. No, I mean,
You don't think so?
You do know these goalies study tendencies, and if
They
you
wouldn't
open
know
up
my
your hip,
tendencies.
you can see it. Like, I'll give you an example. The other night, the LA Galaxy played Chicharito, who's one of the top players in Mexico now, played in Europe for a long time, now plays for the Galaxy. Got a penalty stop. Why? Because he telegraphed where he was going with it, so the goalie knew where to dive before the ball was shot. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guessing, and it looks like that because these are, the guys who take penalties are the best players on the team and the best scorers, so they're world-class.
Well, that's the other thing too.
scorers.
So, like in hockey, if you get a penalty shot, it's because you were tripped up. So they don't get to say, okay, well, if this crappy player gets pulled down, then we're going to put in, Sidney Crosby is going to do it. But in soccer, you choose your best guy to do it every single time. Like, I think it would make it a little bit more fair if you can,
I guess the thing is this, Don.
Mm-hmm.
Don't commit a foul in the 18-yard box.
Yeah. Well, I get that. that.
And you can say, well, he did it on accident. Well, I mean, if there's a pass interference call down the field 60 yards and the DB tripped and actually fell into another player and caught pass interference, the ref's not like, well, it was an accident, let's not call it.
No, I know, but I mean,
No.
a pass interference penalty is not. I mean, one goal in soccer can really determine the outcome. A pass interference penalty, some of them, yes, some of them have, but most of them don't. You know what I mean? That's my issue.
But that's not. I mean, yeah, it can change it, but it changed it in such a big way that it puts a premium on being disciplined in the box. And to be honest, if it's such a huge issue, you would be thinking that there's going to be 3 or 4 a game. It's not like that. There's one maybe every 3 or 4 games kind of deal. It's not like it's going on every 2 seconds.
Yeah,
and it's just like, so anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap that discussion up. Okay, quickly, Don, what are your teams? I know you gamble, but you got to have some allegiances starting up.
I do not. I mean, I like a little bit that Atalanta. I like them. I'm going to pronounce all these names.
Wait. Tell me the league. Tell me the league and the team.
Atalanta's in that Serie A.
Where is that, Brian?
Go ahead,
Italy.
Don.
It's in Italy.
Italy. Good. Well done,
Yeah.
Don.
Is that the top league in Italy?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Don, go ahead, Don.
I also like was it Sevilla in
Sevilla?
Sevilla. Yeah,
I've been there.
see it.
I've been there, Don.
Don,
Okay.
you had Spanish in high school?
No, I took French.
I couldn't tell by
that's-
Sevilla.
But that wouldn't help me any. But yeah, and
So
other
they're
than
they're in La Liga. Sevilla.
yes, yeah.
Okay. What's your Premier League team?
Man, I don't think.
Hey, Don, let me help you out. If you don't give the correct answer here, don't worry about calling me for more advice.
Well, so Liverpool. That's the problem. All the Premier League teams have failed me. I'm like, all right, come on, get me something. And so that's the other thing. And so you hate a team like Liverpool who completely crapped the bed against
Man City.
Man City a couple weeks ago for me, But.
Yeah, but that just showed your lack of knowledge of how to play it. You're coming off a team that just won the championship, playing against the second best team by far in the league in that team's building.
Yeah.
I mean, the best quote was from the coach of the team of Man City afterward. He said it looked like the Liverpool players had a lot of beer.
Yeah. No, in hindsight,
Right.
That was a bad pick by but it still kind of stung and have it left a bad taste in my mouth about that.
Another question, Don. How much you gambling? How's gambling work in soccer?
So it's
This is off the record. I'm gonna stop the recording.
it obviously is obviously you can choose the winner or draw, between the two teams in the draw, and they do have goal lines, which are usually 1.5 or actually a half or 1.5 and 2.5 because draws are so prevalent. And you got obviously the over under. There's things, there's just about everything. I mean,
so are the teams is it favored plus 150 type deal, minus 220 type?
Yeah. That's the money line. I mean, they obviously do they do it the European way, which is decimals, which converts to the money line. But
okay,
yeah,
that's always confusing to me. I mean, spreads are about all I know. All right, Brian, what's your team? What are your teams?
I love Liverpool, big time Liverpool.
Why are you a Liverpool fan?
Just kind of watching them. They would be on TV a lot. And
Always
it's
love
just,
hearing why Americans pick
yeah, I
most
mean, it's just they
random.
were on TV, and so you had access to them, so you watched them. They have an unbelievable atmosphere at games, and so it just all, you know, kind of pushes into it. I love the LA Galaxy because lived in LA for a long time when Landon Donovan got there, and it was fun to watch. And then getting to go see guys like Beckham play was really cool. And then I think, you know, the U.S. men's national team, which by the way I would be in favor of a new manager. I absolutely love the U.S. men's national team. They are, I would have to say, when I look at all my teams, they would probably be the top one.
I do get really into World Cup and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Women's World Cup, I was into it, and definitely men's a couple summers ago.
Well, no, the men's. You weren't watching the men's national team a couple summers ago.
I was watching. Nah, man, I'm a international guy, man. It's not all America for me, despite the flag. I was, because the games were in the morning for that one.
Yeah.
I
See, that's
remember
what.
waking up and kind of throwing it on and just kind of watching it all day. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always liked World Cup, both men's and women's also. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's the biggest selling point is that there's no other sports going on during that time, and I could throw it on there and do some work.
I see a video coming, Don, with you and penalty kicks. We film it, and I'll play goalie, and you'll
Okay.
have
We need to do this.
10 kicks or whatever. And then also a one-on-one. I love a little one-on-one competition, just dribbling and see who can get past who.
So
Okay.
how much does Inside Carolina pay, like when Don's on like medical leave for getting injured for doing this?
Yeah, it's just his lungs will be injured through activity. All right, cool. Good soccer talk there, or football talk. Don, you know, John Siegley of Inside Carolina is a big football guy. What's his team?
I don't know.
He's really big, but I know he's passionate about soccer. All right, guys. Anything else on this?
No, I mean,
Words.
I could talk about it forever, but I think we had enough.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up here. Okay, we're going to say bye to Brian. Brian, thanks so much for coming on. It's your second appearance on the Scoop. This was a big one. Back to back. This was a big one with a lot of good intel on your area and those kind of Tidewater Virginia players. We appreciate it, man.
All right,
Thanks,
Brian.
Ross. Thanks, Gritty.
All right. See you, Brian. Brian's logging off as we wait for him to leave. There, he's gone. And let's get right into it, Don. All right. Vacation time.
Yeah.
Let's get into it quickly here. Got about 5 to 10 minutes left. Where'd you go? What'd you do? Let's get into your vacation. We'll get into mine, and we'll wrap this sucker up.
My father-in-law lives in New Smyrna Beach, and we went down there to spend about a week with him and also go on the beach and that sort of thing.
God, what a riveting description and tale you just told.
Well, we did. I mean, he's great because he gets out and does a whole lot of things. So I don't know exactly where we went, but we went to Blue Springs, which probably to me was the highlight of our trip. And you mentioned that you've done it before, I think.
Yeah, I think I've been there definitely with my family, and I think I've been by myself or with a friend in the last 10 years. But that's kind of inside the state. It's not on the coast, right?
No. So we drove 2 hours to get to it and waited in a car line forever. And then when the crazy thing is like you wait in the car line forever, but then you get there's hardly any people there, which was great. But yeah, I mean, so for those who aren't familiar with it, I wasn't up until recently. And we couldn't see the actual spring, but supposedly there's a spring that comes out. It's really blue, really clear, really beautiful. We didn't see the actual spring because the night before there was a storm that knocked down a bunch of trees that prevented you from swimming over in there. But basically the spring comes out to a river, which eventually goes to the ocean and yada, yada. But there's a portion where you could swim at, or everybody could swim at. And then they kind of have a portion where you can't, but you can kayak. And that's where they have tons of huge, no fishing also, but tons of huge fish and alligator. And so there's actual pictures of me on the kayak, and you could see huge, massive fish underneath me. And seeing the alligator so close is pretty cool too. The one point, it was me and my daughter were in separate kayaks, and she was already freaking out by alligators. And I was like, look, don't freak out, but right over there's an alligator. Just paddle. So she paddled her way, just to make sure she was away from it. But it was so cool because I ended up going back out later And I don't know if it's the same alligator or different ones or whatever, but trying to get a little bit closer. But the staffers said that the alligators really don't mess with the human beings as long as you don't mess with them, because there's plenty of food for them to eat.
You say fish. What kind of fish we talking here?
They said
Just like big.
Yeah. I mean, they said alligator gar, GAR. A lot of those and a bunch of different, a lot of different fish.
I mean, what I remember this area for Blue Springs State Park is the manatees.
Yes. Okay. So we only saw one manatee, and supposedly during the summer they're out in the ocean, but it's during the winter is when they actually, there's a lot of them there. This is all what the staffers were explaining to us. So I only saw one that was early on. He was big and he was beautiful, and he quickly swam out to, I guess, wherever.
There's nothing quick about them. They kind of just chill and eat.
Yeah. Well, he got out of there as soon as, I guess, the humans, because we got there pretty early.
What a weird animal.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else did you do in Florida? You drove down, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we drove down. I mean, really, we just went to the beach. We went to a couple like little towns, and because you can't do a whole lot. And Florida has become the epicenter, and it was really bad when we went down there then. Epicenter for the coronavirus stuff. So you have to be really, really careful. So we did go to the beach a couple times and just kind of really just chilled out. I mean, it was,
Okay, paint the picture of what a beach day looks like for the Callahan family.
So
and you in particular.
I'm not a beach guy at all. I hate it. I hate sand. I hate the sun. I hate the water. I hate getting, even when you rinse yourself off, you get in the car, you still have sand in your crack. I mean, it's just awful. But so my father-in-law has, obviously he lives like walking distance from the beach. So he has it all down to a science. He has his truck, all loaded up with chairs. We had a canopy thing. The cool thing is that the beach near him, you drive on it and you kind of park behind where you're going, which was awesome. Yeah. So we
everybody has a car there on the beach.
Yeah. And it's just like, so you don't like that?
Well, I know that makes it a lot easier for carrying all your stuff, and you can keep the cooler in there, and you can bring tons of stuff, which is nice. Kind of similar to car camping, where your car's right there by your tent. But damn, I mean, the whole point of a beach is kind of getting away and having some room to, kind of getting away from a parking lot and having space to do stuff. You don't have all your trucks right there.
Yeah, but the thing was that the cars have to be parked in the back, and then you have like the sand area where it's basically like a street, and then you have where people are you kind of, I guess, camping or whatever with their stuff, and then you have your beach, and it almost kind of gives you like a sliver of the beach, which was nice, where you don't have to worry about, especially during now where you're trying to social distance and everything. We talked a bunch about mine. You kind of took a little bit of a venture, saw a love interest perhaps up in the Northeast.
I went up to Maine. It's a state up there above Massachusetts.
What was the temperature? Weather?
Dude, actually, I mean, well, on the coast, it was a little cold. It's foggy, but I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I wore a sweatshirt at times. I mean, but it was beautiful. When it got sunny, it was very warm. It wasn't that cold. I was expecting it to be a lot colder and was disappointed because.
I mean, what are we talking? Are we talking 70s?
Yeah, on the coast, 70s, 80s.
Okay.
And windy and foggy. So there's a lot of different weather coming in, which of course changed it. But when the sun was out, it was hot. It was very, very hot. So that was a little disappointing because I would have minded it to be a little colder. But there's like always a chance of rain and thunderstorms and clouds and stuff. And then we did 2 days on the coast at Acadia National Park, which is this big, beautiful national park on this island off the coast of Maine, kind of up the coast a little bit. So you drive up through all these little towns, these Maine coastal beach towns, stopping here and there. And we got to Acadia National Park and we camped right outside there. And all day in the park, beautiful things. I posted some pictures on Twitter last night and on my Instagram. I mean, awesome scenes. The coast is unbelievable. Mountains, waterfalls, beach stuff. Then we went into Baxter State Park, which is 2.5 hours northwest in the middle of Maine, kind of up in Maine. That's where I thought it was going to be really cold or colder. And it was hotter because it wasn't on the coast. It was by all these lakes, all these glacier-made lakes. Hoping to see some moose and go to this really awesome state park that has the tallest mountain in Maine called Mount Katahdin, which is the end of the Appalachian Trail. if you're going south to north. We didn't hike it. It's like a 10-hour hike.
Ooh.
Or like it's all day. You get there early and hike. It's like 6 hours up, 6 hours down, or something like that. But beautiful waterfalls, rivers, ponds, lakes, hikes, and stuff. We camped 2 days out there.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good to get away. I mean, I completely detached. I didn't open my, it had no internet. Camped middle of the woods.
I go crazy.
Cooking our own food, camping underneath the stars.
Do you enjoy the company you were with?
Yeah, it was great. Of course. Funny story here. Ready?
Uh-oh.
The Bush compound is in this town. George A.W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, 2 presidents. 41, 43. One of those
43.
2. 41, 43. Is Trump 45?
Yeah. Well, which one are you talking about? The younger one?
Well, one's 40, one's something, and one's another one.
Yeah. Well, which compound is it?
I mean, it's a family compound, the Bush compound.
Oh,
one of them's dead.
Yeah. It was 41, 43.
Okay. This is the Bush family compound. So Jeb Bush, George W. Bush, all the daughters, all the family, aunts, uncles. They have this peninsula on up the coast in this town called Kenneport, Maine, and you can just drive and you see it. And so it's this big little area, similar to like a little island, but it's connected to the coastline. You can really literally park and like see it all. They have tennis courts, tons of houses, compounds, access to water on both sides, boats. There were like 4 black Suburban SUVs. Secret Service was there because you know how former presidents have a Secret Service.
They had the option. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they have very famous, very wealthy family. So it's called Walker's Point, and so we knew we were going to stop there. This is the morning. We pass it, and I'm like, okay, there it is. We turn around, come back, and I pull into the driveway, and there's this kiosk.
Did you get tackled?
There's this kiosk and a security gate and like cameras and like it's legit. I knew this is where it was. So I pull in, and Secret Security comes out, or Secret Service comes out, and like he was having none of it. He was like, "What are you doing here? Who are you?
Wow.
What's your purpose here?" Wouldn't answer any questions. I was like, "Is this Walker's Point?" And I just saw it on the map. It's Walker's Point. He was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I saw it on Google's map. Wanted to just kind of pull in, check it out." It's like, "Why don't you just turn around here?" I was like, "Yeah, cool, no problem here." And so we pulled out and then drove back a little bit to where you can kind of see it, and we ate breakfast there.
Gotcha. Wow, that's crazy.
So that was a cool part. Ate some lobster roll, waited in line for an hour for a lobster roll at this really famous place, and just beautiful scenery, beautiful sunsets, sunrises, beautiful beaches, lakes, ponds, waterfalls, all that, and then drove back.
How long is the drive?
Well, from Maine to where we stayed in Connecticut was like 6 hours, I think, from Baxter State Park. 6 or something hours. So that was long. And then we spent the night in Connecticut, and I drove back to North Carolina, and that was 8.5 hours.
Wow.
But I stopped a couple times.
Oh, 8.5 from Connecticut to, are you sure?
Yeah, right by New York.
Okay.
Go right through Philly. Go right.
I think it was a little bit long because I know I do the Philly thing all the time. It's like 7.5. But
yeah, I mean, you can Google map it. I mean, of course it took longer because there's traffic through New York, there's traffic through DC, and you stop 3 or 4 times.
Well, that's it. I've always learned is you got to plan your trip around DC because it's just a pain in the ass driving
before and after. All right, guys, that was good stuff. Hopefully you took away a lot from this with Grimes, with George Wilson, with Logan Taylor, with the soccer talk, maybe more insight into Don's family life as well. Anything else, Don? We may be on a every other week schedule here.
Yeah.
As this class slows down, don't foresee any recruitments really escalating here anytime soon.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Is that accurate to say?
Yeah. I mean, we just have to take it week by week to see what's going on. But yeah, I don't envision anything, I guess, worthy of a podcast between now and next week, but we'll see. You never know.
Yeah. Try to bring you the news when things happen. We do a podcast, but there's nothing to talk about. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to The Scoop.